Hello, my name is Dr. Carl Candlepun, and in this special episode of my Lost podcast, I host a post-screening discussion of episode 6 of Lost, House of the Rising Sun. This discussion features two first-time viewers, and therefore does not feature any spoilers beyond episode 6. But if you have not seen at least to that point in the show, I highly encourage you to do so first before proceeding with this podcast. In this episode, I begin by introducing a newcomer to these screenings before moving into our regular discussion. But without further ado, let's begin. Okay, so I am here with
Damian.
And Damian, you have seen how much of Lost before?
None at all.
Okay, and so tonight we're screening the 6th episode, and he has not seen the first 5, which I would normally, on principle, be absolutely against. But he wanted to come. We were short first-time viewers, and I actually think this episode is one of the very, very few where it's not the worst thing to kind of jump in on, because it doesn't. There's been some twists that have already happened. This one doesn't really spoil those.
Okay.
So if you like this enough that you want to go back and check the first 5 out, I highly recommend you do that. And I think you'll still be like, oh yeah, and then you'll kind of get some more context for what's going on here.
Sounds good. I'll definitely do it.
You said you haven't seen any of the show. What do you know anything about the series? Have you heard anything at all?
Not at all.
Okay, that's okay. No, that's good. That's what we're looking for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, I thought y'all were about to give me the Buddha here.
No. Those are what I was looking for when we first started this. The other interesting thing about, because back in the day when this aired 20 years ago, it was kind of when DVR was a very new thing. There was no streaming. So there were people all the time that would just kind of randomly watch an episode, and then that's how they got hooked. I mean, that's kind of what happened to me.
Okay.
So that's another reason that I was kind of like, okay, I'm normally against this, but it is kind of replicating something that would happen back then. So it'll be an interesting recreation of that, I think.
Thank you to the people who didn't show up.
Okay, so we have just finished watching House of the Rising Sun, episode 6. I think I want to start by asking Damian about how much of that made sense to you, if any.
I was real fucking lost. I mean, my bad. I was real lost.
Yeah.
Wait, can we cuss? Okay,
Yeah, no, you're fine.
Okay, I was real fucking lost. Oh man, like in the beginning, I was wondering, like, okay, what is this going to lead to? Like the Asian woman Lulu, is that her name?
Son.
I heard the guy say Lulu, so I'm thinking like, okay, that's her name. So, just like the part of like her and the husband, and her thinking about the past of like when they first fell in love with each other, then just going to the recent part, him whooping the black guy's ass, and I was thinking like, whoa, what the fuck just happened? Like,
Well, to be fair, though, even you were probably like, what the fuck?
Well, and I think you've missed a couple things before then. I thought maybe this had something to tie back to something that's happened in those previous episodes.
Right, yeah.
Like she told him something.
Yeah. So in that recap, it showed a little bit of him, like the black guy had him ask, "Can you watch my son?"
Yeah.
So there's some kind of interaction there between him and her, and so yeah, like that's the only thing that it was still a mystery why he was doing that. Did you at any point catch on to the fact that it was the watch?
No.
Okay, so there's some cool clues.
It's very well hinted, knowing that it's the watch.
Yeah. So
the first thing is she points to the watch, but they think it's the handcuffs. And then when they go in the flashback, she's looking at her watch. It's, I didn't notice either of those till today. So
yeah,
I really thought it was the handcuffs as well. Like, I ain't gonna lie.
good writing.
Yeah. Well, he said the part about the thief. I was like, oh yeah, he's racist. Yeah, he is racist. Like, I knew it had to be something. I was like, okay, well, something happened. It just ain't shown yet and stuff.
Well, so did that make you interested in the show at all?
It actually does, yeah. I mean, shoot, I could definitely see myself going back and watching the last 5 episodes and stuff.
Okay, yeah.
Catch up with you guys and stuff. 'Cause
Yeah.
man, like I wish I would have seen more. Like even like the ending part when he told the lady, the one, what's the name of the white woman?
Probably Kate. Yeah.
When she said, "I don't want to be Eve," and he's just like, when I'm gonna get to know you, and she's like, well, you blew it. I mean, like that's not gonna happen. So I wish I would have probably maybe the last episodes would have like explained more of her past and like what happened. So, yeah.
I think if you go back and watch them, you'll be like, oh, like, yeah. I think you'll like it.
I can already tell just because the giggles you guys made.
Well, because like I said, this one's not the worst one to slide into because I mean, like there have been a couple of big reveals throughout the first 5. This one doesn't really spoil them. Like there are some hints at it, but if you don't know what they're talking about, you don't know.
Okay, so did you guys know that she spoke English this whole time? Like,
no, which actually. So let me ask you.
I did because I've seen the show before, but
no,
well, yeah, we've seen it, but let's ask Drew. Were you surprised with that?
I wasn't totally surprised by it, if only because I know there's 6 seasons.
Oh, there's plenty of time to learn English.
and that's well, it wasn't even that. I was like, that's 6 seasons of having people speak a foreign language. Like, they're not going to do that.
Well,
so I figured at some point that one of them's not. I figured it was going to be a reveal at some point. I just didn't know which one it was going to be, if not both.
Well, I mean, this show was it did receive a lot of. I don't know if praise is the right word, but I mean, it was commented on a lot that the show had way more subtitles than anything on network TV, mostly because of them, those two characters. Really? Yeah, like there are whole episodes that are about a third subtitled, and that was a big deal back then. Did you catch in the flashback right before it's revealed that she speaks English, that the lady, the decorator, was like, "Have you taken your lessons?"
I figured that's what she was talking about.
Yeah.
It's also very well hinted at the beginning where she's overhearing the conversation and it's like it's from her perspective.
And she's listening to them flirt, which causes her to flashback to the beginning of the show.
Actually, very similar to, I won't spoil, but something that happened 2 episodes ago.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and similar to what he's talking about, which I'm assuming you know what he's talking about, right?
I think so.
2 episodes ago.
Feet.
The big.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that one.
Towards her speaking English, there have been hints since the pilot. Like when Michael first comes to her in the pilot looking for his son, and he's like, "Hey, have you seen him?" She like almost starts to answer, and then she looks and sees that her husband's paying attention, and then she responds in Korean. So there's just been little things like that, and like the way she's listening to conversations and stuff.
I thought the husband whooped him because of him asking her to watch his son.
Right.
That's why I thought it was like the reason. I'm like, okay. Like,
Yeah. I mean, you're supposed to wonder why. Yeah, why? And for people that had seen the first 5, I think that, and then there's something else that happened a little bit earlier on that you wonder if he found out about. But
now I think he was doing a little bit too much when it came to like telling the wife to button up, just because like she was already buttoned up above her tits anyway. So it's like, okay, like what more you want to button up, man? Like her neck now, like I mean,
yeah, when that's again in the first 5 and in this one, like you see, he's kind of a very domineering husband, and this episode reveals that he wasn't always like that. Which okay, so I mean, I guess this is to both of you. Like, what did you think of her decision not to leave him like she had planned?
Well, I wondered at some point something would have had to have given because they ended up on the island together.
Right.
But I mean, I was indifferent towards it, really.
Like indifferent as in like you don't think it's right or wrong, or like you don't have a strong opinion about it?
Oh, I just think it's probably difficult to say goodbye to an entire life type of thing. So you understand why she stayed, or at least why I think she stayed.
Well, so why do you think she stayed?
I think that's exactly it. Just
too hard?
Residual feelings. It might be a little too hard at that point.
You know, the flower you don't think played something like oh, the man that I fell in love with, like he's still in there.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
That's part of what I mean.
Well, and that's right.
It's also very convenient he has that flower there.
Yeah, I guess is what I mean though is like okay, so like she reads that as the man I fell in love with is still there or still in there. Do you think that that's really enough to like justify sticking around? I mean, there is no right or wrong answer to that. I guess I'm just kind of.
Well, I always think when decisions are hard to make, you look for the reasons to not make the big change.
Yeah. That's the thing too. I guess time will tell. Like if she should have stayed with him or not. But
good for the show.
I thought he followed her. That's why I thought before they showed that ending part, I'm like, okay, like she was trying to escape and just.
I think I lost the plot on that a little bit. I didn't realize they were going to be there at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was like, okay.
Wait, so you didn't realize they were going to be where at the same time?
I think maybe I just, while I was reading the subtitles and realizing, oh, she's making a run for it. Like, I think I missed the part where they're going to be at the airport at the same time.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it was very quick. I think from what I remember, it's a very quick, like, while you guys are on your trip or something like that. But yeah, well, that's the thing too, is like they don't make it clear. I think that maybe you could have thought that she was going to leave him in Los Angeles. That's where the plane was going before it crashed. I think you were meant to possibly think she was going to leave him in Los Angeles, and that's why they ended up on the island together. It was because she hadn't reached the point where she was going to leave him yet. Would you have moved to the caves?
I would have.
Yeah. For the reasons Jack said.
For the exact same reason. Like, yeah, it's where the water is.
Yeah.
And the shade and
yeah.
all that stuff.
I probably would have stayed out. And I ain't gonna lie,
Yeah.
You know, I'm used to getting darker outside.
Well, so I mean, what would your logic be? Like, what would your aversion of going to the caves be?
I mean, I agree with. I see both sides. I see like the reason why, because like for the water and stuff, and as well, you know, like the temperature wise and all that. But then it's kind of like that 1 second moment, like, oh, like what the plane does happen to pass by, and it's like, damn, no one's outside.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
Yeah.
Plus, I would just be in the water just to swim a lot, so I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah.
But also the other part is like, why not just take shifts?
Right.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Which I think is kind of the point Jack was trying to make to her at the end.
But then how mad would you be just like that one person being on the ship and they're just asleep and the plane passes by?
Because it would be hard to get the word out.
This is more for you because he knows kind of more of the mythology that's been established so far, which isn't a lot. But
There was not a lot this week. There's
well,
less than there's been.
The Adam and Eve thing. Any thoughts or theories about that?
Not at the moment, at least. I mean,
Okay.
The question, of course, is like, are those the members of the people that were part of the signal?
Well,
were they the signal team? But he said, because I think he said 40, 50 years they've been there, which...
he said that's how long it takes for the clothing
Clothes,
to debris, is at least 40 to 50 years.
Vintage shoppers.
What?
They were just vintage shoppers.
Yeah.
It was only 5 years ago, but the clothes were much older.
But the transmission was 16. It was planned for 16 years. So it's probably not the same group unless she waited like 24 years to start the signal.
You guys don't have to answer this because it probably might have been in the previous episodes and stuff. But like the moment when the guitar guy was saying like in the cave, these bodies, like I mean I didn't know people were over here, and then the old guy was like, who? But then like you could see like the look from the guy and Kate. They kind of was looking at him like.
Well, so I'll go ahead.
They know something he doesn't.
I'll go ahead and spoil that a bit because it's something that I did want to talk about. And it's the only reason I would have talked about it is to not spoil it. And the fact that you're asking about it, I'll go ahead and tell you. So the transmission that we were just talking about is that fairly early on, after them arriving on the island, they discover that there's this transmission that's coming from somewhere on the island. It's been playing for 16 years on a loop. Basically, the insinuation seems to be that this person was never rescued. And again, that was 16 years ago. The message has been playing that long, so that's kind of like, oh fuck, we're fucked if nobody heard that in 16 years. But the group, it was a small group of people that heard that transmission, and they decided that they weren't going to tell the rest of the people because it could cause a panic. It caused them to lose hope that they're going to get rescued. So they kept it a secret. And Charlie and Kate, Charlie, the guitar guy, Kate, the woman, and then Jack wasn't part of that group, but Kate told him already. So the three of them know about that transmission. Locke, the bald dude, he's the only one there in the caves that doesn't know about the transmission. So what Charlie was saying there, he was slipping up and saying, like, oh, are these the people that were here before us? Referring to that group. And then Locke was like, what people? And then Charlie's like, oh, well, people could have been here before us. And then Locke's like, yeah, obviously. Well, and thank you for bringing that up because this is one of the things in my notes. There's actually a deleted scene. I don't think it was ever filmed, but it was scripted, and it was another scene of Charlie trying to get away from Locke, and Locke they kind of get into this confrontation, And he's like, what, you don't think I can handle myself out there? That's what Charlie says. And Locke was like, nah, frankly, no. And then Charlie goes on this angry tirade of like, well, last I checked, I was the one that went out to the cockpit. I'm the one that went on the hike, got attacked by a polar bear. I'm the one, which, there's a polar bear, if you didn't catch that. And heard the transmission. And basically, the reason I'm upset that scene's not in the episode is because it establishes that Locke was able to get Charlie to reveal all these things to him. And there does come a point much later in the season where it's just established that Locke does know about these things, but it's never in the show explained how he came to know it. And that scene would have explained that. Okay. So in my head, it is canon that happened. You just never get to see it.
I think we've already, I forget when, but I think we've already seen a few cases of Charlie being bad at keeping secrets. So. Well, right.
Yeah. So that reinforces something I said back in the pilot of like how Boone suddenly knew that something happened to the pilot. And I was like, well, Charlie was in that group, and I have reason to believe that Charlie was probably running his mouth. That this is kind of the thing that supports that. So Charlie gave up his heroin. How do you think that's gonna go?
not good.
Yeah.
It usually goes pretty well when people quit drugs.
Yeah.
It's pretty smooth road after that.
Why no one ever does them again?
I kind of see him probably going back to it though. I don't know.
You think? Well, I mean, so how?
What if something happens to his guitar or something, or whether they get in an argument because like the guitar is like his lifeline. It's like it breaks. It's kind of like, oh, without that, it's like.
Well, so the question is like, what is Locke gonna like? Is Locke gonna just get rid of them?
I guarantee, not guarantee. My strong opinion is he keeps it.
Yeah.
Why?
Because I think he's
resale value.
I think he's a very smiley person in front of people, but I think he's also just subtly manipulating people to kind of be on his side or to kind of have some sort of form of control over them. Mm-hmm. And now he has a baggie full of heroin.
Oh, I didn't think about that. That's
and like he found him his guitar, and like he's always finding ways to be just helpful enough for very specific people. Finding the dog and
so you still have a fairly, I don't know if negative is the right word, but perception of Locke.
And yeah, like, I would say negative, but it's like, I mean, he's surviving.
Sure.
He's just like helping people.
That could be.
Well, so that reminds me, you were the one that was talking at least 2 weeks ago when you were here. I feel like maybe you talked about it before that too, but the possibility of them starting to faction off, and you had talked about maybe Jack and Locke kind of, and people following them. And this episode,
out there in the same place. Yeah.
I know they ended up in the same place.
Yeah, but yeah, they did kind of faction off. I mean, there's no real antagonism going on between those two groups as of now. But just any thoughts on that? Like, were you like, huh?
I mean, I was more like, oh, so that kind of not quite throws it out the window. They could still butt heads in front of the others, but then it's like, all right, is it them and then like Sawyer and Saeed, like unlikely pairing there type of thing,
right?
Because even they aren't quite. Him and Jack aren't quite seeing eye to eye right now on just how to do things. But
Jack and Saeed,
yeah.
I'm sad Lucas isn't here because this is the first episode with no Shannon.
She's in the episode, to be clear. She's here at the end. But
do we?
Yeah, we see her and Boone on the beach. Because I'm like, did they split up?
I did not notice
no, they're
that.
both together. They're sitting right there.
Interesting.
But yeah, they're non-speaking in this. I think Claire's not in it at all.
Yeah, I don't think so. So just so you're not left out of the loop, there's a character that wasn't really in this episode that is one of our regular attendees hates her. And it's pretty funny to hear him rant about her, and she wasn't in this one. Okay, yeah, so I don't really have a lot left in the notes, unfortunately, and there aren't a lot of us here tonight. So what I'm going to do, and I know this is a tricky position to put you in, since you weren't here last week, do you have any thoughts, without spoiling some of the bigger, maybe talking in vagaries? Did you like it? Last week's
I actually
episode?
didn't like last week's episode.
Really? Okay.
I was so personally just the whole backstory. It's like I don't really care.
That was kind of how Will felt a little bit.
I was like, I mean, it's always interesting to hear their backstories, so it informs what they do in the present. But it's like watching. It's like, all right. There was the one moment when he breaks the thing.
Yeah, got you.
And I couldn't quite figure out if was it always nothing in there or.
So I talked about this on the podcast proper episode with my co-host. When I was so young when I saw it that like I thought that like, based on the conversation he had at the airport Like it doesn't make sense. Like if you think like, why would they just put that on there?
I thought it was just to appease them, type of a thing.
No, yeah, his reaction is that he at least expected something to be in there, which begs the question of like, okay, so what does that mean in relation to what Jack was experiencing in that episode? And any thoughts on that? Without
no, because it kind of goes back to the episode before that when we first saw the man in the suit.
Yeah.
Where it's like, all right, is he or isn't he imagining it?
Right.
So last episode was about family issues. What I'm hearing.
Yes.
Issues.
A lot of episodes are actually about family issues. Although I guess that was the first one. It was about family issues. This one was kind of family issue. Yeah.
I mean, it just didn't move the needle for me. It's like we learned his backstory, but like it doesn't inform. Like to me, it's like kind of when we found out Kate's backstory. Remember,
Sure.
and we're like, oh, this is going to amount to nothing.
Which I was much more on the same page with you on that one.
Like I said, it's a nice backstory. It's like, oh, it's a nice story and like a nice symbolic story kind of a thing.
One thing that
It's like, but so what does this mean going forward?
What I will say is
he's taking on the reins of leadership.
Yeah,
But
which
like-
is a big deal. But what I will say is I think that has a lot more bearing on things in future episodes than Kate's flashbacks did in that episode.
So far, what we've been seeing is immediately why they are on the plane. So that's all that we've been getting in these last 4 episodes. This one covered a lot longer span of time. I noticed most of the others is basically is.
Well,
The
technically,
Kate one is months, but it's really like one like little chunk of time.
technically, Jack started in his
Oh, yeah, it
childhood,
does.
but
this is
yeah,
like-
his adult stuff was right
It was
before.
like several years.
Yeah.
You have to assume.
Well, did you like the scene between Jack and Locke at least?
I always like my Locke moments.
Yeah, it's a classic scene, and I think it's so well written. And like that line he says about, I think you were the one that pointed out last week. Locke says to him like, "Oh, you're not going crazy. Crazy people don't think they're going crazy. They think they're getting saner." And like when you think about that in terms of Locke, like, like is that a ironic thing?
The island provides.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I mean, now you're starting to get more of like how he's mythologizing the island by saying like, "Oh, the island will give you this if you give the island something." Like he's not.
Which kind of also though goes back to the other ideas, like if he's manipulating people, because he plants the idea of the guitar like earlier, and it seems like he's known it was up in that hill the entire time. So it's like, how much of it is him just playing everyone?
Yeah.
I did question that part. That part, I was like, so he's been knowing this whole time and stuff, and he just decided to say something because that's how it came off as. Like,
Well, I mean, he undoubtedly knew it was there, and that's why he wanted him to look up. But and yeah, he does frame it as like, well, if you give it up, like you'll somehow find it. But I also don't think he was being like deceptive about that. I think Charlie has enough common sense to know that Locke saw it was like that it didn't just miraculously appear or something like that. So the question is, does Locke? I mean, based on what you're saying, like I feel like the question is, does Locke believe what he's saying?
Mm-hmm.
What's your opinion on that?
I mean, I guess I want it both ways. I think he believes there's something mythical about the island because he has a very strong reason to.
Yes.
But that said, I also think like you can't not just telling people that, but like in my mind, in terms of building his loyalists, the idea of being like through gentle mythologizing, I guess, like, oh, Charlie, here's your guitar and I'll help you get off drugs, or hey Jack, like let's have this nice chat, or like, hey look, I found the dog, but you take credit. Like, and he could just be the nicest guy.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's it.
Okay.
Because conflict has to come in at some point.
Well, there's been conflict. Yeah, there's been conflict. Let's be fair.
Right.
Michael just.
I mean, he also could just be a fan because he clearly had listened to those albums. This was before, he didn't have Spotify on the island, so he couldn't just look it up.
I was waiting for the moment where, because I had a feeling the guitar was going to show up.
Yeah.
Like finding out he had like searched through his bag or something like that.
Yeah.
And Oil Change is a much worse album than the first.
I feel like without having the context of the previous 5 episodes, I do think that Locke comes across in this episode as much more benevolent and wise and genuinely helpful. He's not in this episode alone. He's not giving any like outwardly sinister vibes. I feel like just an observation I'm making. Not it's not.
And kind of recontextualizing the previous episodes, even the stuff he was doing weren't inherently sinister.
Yeah, he had the Jack
just,
conversation.
Yeah,
it wasn't.
Or it's like just kind of his demeanor sometimes, or the music they put under him sometimes.
Well, yeah, and just like I mean, it is a bit creepy because we don't know, like, we don't fully understand what he experienced there or what he feels he experienced.
Right.
Yeah, and then in that Jack scene, you get a bit of it, like, oh, I've looked into the heart of this island. What I saw was beautiful. Like that does seem a little creepy because it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? So yeah. But that's the cool thing about Locke. I've watched it with so many people, the show, and I feel like out of the gate there are always very different perceptions of him. People perceive him as a villain. People perceive him more as like this wise, spiritual guide type character. And I don't think either of those are necessarily wrong. And I mean, we'll see which one. If either becomes more the case, but
you said his name earlier. It starts with the S.
Said,
yeah. Okay, so what's up with Saeed questioning my man's over here, talking about like, nah, man, I think you had to do something to get him and stuff. I mean, because it's something you ain't telling us.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I mean, I feel like to some degree we thought the same. Like something must have happened to trigger that. And like you thought, oh well, maybe he found out about this thing, and I mean, none of those things would have justified him doing that. But Saeed's looking for some kind of motive.
Yeah, I just feel like maybe since of course no one in the island knows how to speak their language, maybe he's just like adamant on like picking at him and pointing at him like, no man, it's something else you ain't telling us.
Well, I mean, yeah, the only way to try and figure out why this happened is to ask him. And he's frustrated in that moment. I think of like, well, there must be something that you're not saying. Oh, that's another thing. I'm glad you said that actually, because in the last episode, that's another hint that Sun spoke English is when Saeed's trying to ask where she got water. He's like, where did you get this? Where did you get this? And Kate's like, she doesn't understand you. And he's like, she understands me. Like just a little clue that like he's picking up on something on some level that she's understanding. Yeah. Which that's something that as you get to know more about Saeed and what his skill set is, like it does fit for his character to sense certain things.
Now I was confused. How come Kate never told Jack Jack? I said his name.
Yeah.
Okay. How come she never told Jack on what she felt about his idea and stuff? Like I saw her giving the look to Saeed like, okay, like.
Well, she even defends Jack's idea to Saeed, but she's not.
Like,
I noticed that too because when he first brings it up in the cave, like she's not digging it, and then she tries to sell Saeed on it.
Yeah.
And then she gets to the beach like, I'm not going there.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So.
Well, and without spoiling certain things for him, what I'll say is, I mean, you remember back in the 4th episode when she's going on the boar hunt, and Jack's like, I think you have trouble staying in one place for very long, Kate. And she's kind of like, he's like saying that's why she volunteers for all these missions. So it's just another element of her character that they keep hinting at and reinforcing. And you will, as you get to know her deeper, you'll kind of understand why she's that way. But yeah, she has a trouble staying in one spot, which probably means this island is hell for her. Like more so than other people, maybe.
Okay, so quick question to y'all and stuff, or you can answer this too and stuff. Who's your favorite character?
Well, actually, so before we do it, because we have the context of the entire series. Okay. Based on this one episode, who's your favorite? And then we'll get to Drew.
Oh man.
Like who did you find the most interesting or likable? Either way. Saeed? Okay.
Yeah, Saeed, yeah. I ain't gonna lie, I just love the dominant part when he was just like, I don't know. Like, even though I was like, okay, why you keep picking on him and stuff, but it's just like him taking control on like certain things, like even him telling Jack, like, hey man, I don't agree with your idea. And how come you ain't discuss it with everyone? Or you just make it like a you thing, which even though he didn't make it a him thing, he spoke it with Kate and stuff, but even still though, he was just like adamant on his belief and just
Yeah, his conviction.
Yeah, his
maybe.
conviction.
Yeah. All right. Well, so I know who has been your favorite character.
Oh, it's still Locke.
Is it still Locke? Yeah.
He's still the most. I think he's the one whose motives are still the most unknown.
Mm.
Like we have the sense that he's picking up on some weird idea about he has some weird ideas about the island, maybe.
Yeah.
But also, it's like, where's that going to lead him?
Yeah.
Oh, I totally messed up. I thought you said Sahib was your
Oh no, I do like him.
No,
a lot.
he did say that he liked him.
Because to your point, he's super capable and like the first couple episodes, I was like, where's this going to go with this character? Because it's like, what kind of a trope are we maybe falling into? Right. Which it felt like we pivoted and like, no, he's actually super capable and super smart and like he is taking on that leadership role and he is trying to like get organized.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so trying to keep it with these first 6 episodes, who would you say so far you think is your favorite?
I'm going to stick with my answer and say Hurley, even though Hurley is barely in this.
Yeah, Hurley was barely. Hurley's the bigger guy that's listening to the music.
I like him.
Yeah, and you barely got a taste of him.
Right, barely a taste of him. I can just tell like his energy. Like
yeah,
it's just funny.
Yeah,
and he just goes with the flow. He seems like because even when Jack was like, "Yo, man, like this ain't high school. Like, come on, this stuff."
Yeah. Well, so I wish I had a more original answer, but I think I have to go with Locke too. Like I think back when I first watched it, and even rewatching it, yeah, just like in these early episodes, like it's just like at this point you do kind of know more about him than a lot of the other people. But yeah, it's still just like, which way is this guy gonna go? Like I almost admire him in the things that he's saying, and yeah, he almost feels like somebody you could look up to. But then it's just like, but is that going to take a dark turn? And yeah, I don't know. He's the most interesting.
I could see that with him because even though the fact he didn't rat Jay out, you know, when Jay had like the drugs in his hand, you know, Charlie, my bad.
Jay Lulu.
But let's see, when he like was on the beehive and he was like telling him like come close, even though he already knew what he had in his hand, but he was just like, you know what I mean, like.
Didn't call him out on it.
I'll deal with it later and stuff.
Yeah.
Now we need to focus on the bigger picture right here.
Yeah.
How did we feel about the CGI bees? Because
not great, but I mean, again, 20 years ago.
Bees, and some of those I'm like, I could have done that.
But for a 2004 network show, it's like, you know what, I'll cut it some slack on a lot of things.
Exactly, yeah.
But yeah, no, I was like, these bees
I
feel kind of flat, and none of them have like shadows.
Yeah. I admired how many bee stings they'd stuck on Charlie. Like the makeup department was like, we're running out. People are healing the wounds. We gotta stick something on people.
Well, and we
gotta justify our jobs.
This is something I've talked about multiple times, so I might cut this out. But like, I really like about the show, one of the many things, but like, is how well they keep track of everybody's injuries, like episode to episode. Like, okay, well now it would be this much more healed, and like even this one, I'm sure I've thought about it before, but it was kind of like realizing it anew. Michael limping, like when he limps up to whoever it was, like that's from him getting hit by the boar a couple episodes ago. I mean, that's an acting choice on his part. Like, I've got to remember that I would be limping this many days later.
I'm glad you said it because I was confused about that. I'm like, from the dude tackling him? I'm thinking.
No, the limp is it? Yeah, yeah. Okay, so that's everything we got. Next week, we're coming back for episode 7, The Moths. Damian, do you think you're going to be caught up in time?
Nope. Nah.
Okay. And
let's do the question. Who do we think episode 7 is going to be about?
I'm going to say Charlie.
Why do you say that?
So, like, I think of the term a moth to a flame, and I think of flames. I think of heroin, like on the spoons type of thing.
I want to say Michael, just because of the part about like him just now meeting his son, and maybe like they might get more intel on the son's story, like with the mom and stuff.
Okay.
And who knows? Maybe y'all seen stuff already, past episodes I haven't seen. So.
Sure. Yeah. They haven't had an episode yet.
Okay.
So yeah, it's definitely a good guess. But all right, so. Hope you guys come back for that one, and hope you guys come back for that one. I would now like to give a special thank you to the currently active donors. These include candidate number 90, Ben Ward, Candidate number 108, Jeffrey Winslow. Candidate number 69, Brian Phillips. Candidate number 32, Chuck Boyd. And candidate number 341, Hans. If you too would like to become a candidate, you can do so for as little as $1. One-time or recurring donations can be set up on Ko-fi.com/candlepun or Patreon.com/candlepun. A donation of any amount will get you credited in this podcast and added to the candidate wall, which will be displayed in all video versions of the episodes of this podcast from that point forward, even once you're no longer donating. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank the multiple people that have donated equipment and resources that are used in the production of this podcast. These include Mary Mullins, Brandon Huth, Charles Huth, William McMahon, and Charlene McMahon. Until next time, namaste and good luck.
He's cosplaying his son this week.
For the viewers at home. Hi.
To like this video, click the thumbs up. Or, if there has been an incursion by the hostiles, click the thumbs down. To leave feedback, enter a comment below. To be notified when more videos arrive, click the circle and then select the notification bell. To view previous content from this channel, click either of the two boxes.